You know, life will always throw moments at you where your emotions want to take over. Anger, excitement, heartbreak, even jealousy. These are real and they are powerful, but here's the truth: emotions are like waves. They rise, they crash, and then they fade away. If you allow them to dictate your decisions, you'll always be reacting, never leading. The real power lies in moving with strategy. Strategy means stepping back for a moment, even when everything inside you screams to react instantly. It means asking yourself, what outcome do I want? What is my bigger picture? What move today will still make sense tomorrow? Think about it. Wars aren't won by the strongest army, but by the smartest plan. Careers don't grow because of one emotional decision. They grow because of consistent, strategic steps. Relationships don't survive on passion alone. They survive when love is balanced with patience, understanding, and wisdom. When you move with emotion, you might win a moment, but when you move with strategy, you win the journey, and trust me, the journey matters so much more. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, pause. Breathe. Don't let anger burn bridges you might need tomorrow. Don't let excitement blind you to the risks ahead. Don't let fear stop you from stepping forward. Instead, put your emotions in the passenger seat and let strategy drive. Because people who live by emotion often tell stories of regret, but people who live by strategy, they build legacies. So my message is simple: move with strategy, not emotion. That's how you win, not just the battles, but the war of life. Emotions are part of being human, and no matter how strong or successful we become, we can't deny them. When something excites us, our heart races. When we are disappointed, our mind fills with frustration. When we are insulted, anger rushes in before we even think. And when we feel love, we're willing to do anything without hesitation. That is the raw beauty of emotions, but it is also their greatest trap. Because emotions, as powerful as they feel in the moment, are not stable. They rise like fire, they cool like ashes, and they often leave us regretting the decisions we made in the heat of that feeling. A reaction is exactly that: instant, impulsive, and unplanned. And reactions rarely build the life you truly want. Strategy, on the other hand, is where strength truly lies. Strategy asks you to pause before you speak, to think before you act, and to measure the consequences before you commit. It doesn't mean you kill your emotions or ignore your heart. It means you respect your emotions enough to know they are temporary, while your decisions and results are permanent. Anyone can react, but not everyone can plan. Anyone can explode in anger, but not everyone can stay calm enough to choose the response that actually shifts the outcome in their favor. That difference is the line between living by chance and living by design. Think of the times when you've acted purely on emotion. Maybe you quit too early because you felt discouraged in the moment. Maybe you spoke words you didn't mean because you were angry. Maybe you trusted too easily because your excitement blinded you. And in each of those moments, the reaction might have felt satisfying for a few seconds. But it didn't take long for the regret to arrive. Now think of the times when you held yourself back for a moment, when you paused to analyze the bigger picture, when you chose not what felt good right now, but what would feel right tomorrow. Those are the times you moved with strategy, and those are the times that created lasting results. Life is not about winning small arguments or feeding temporary emotions. It is about building something bigger than yourself, and that requires the discipline of strategy. Strategy turns raw energy into direction. It transforms chaos into order. It channels passion into power. You can feel deeply, but if you don't align those feelings with a plan, you'll always stay trapped in cycles of reaction without progress. Great leaders, successful entrepreneurs, strong visionaries, none of them reached where they are by simply reacting to life. They built strategies. They knew that emotions could fuel them, but not guide them. Strategy guided them. When they felt fear, they didn't allow fear to paralyze them. They turned it into preparation. When they felt anger, they didn't waste it on shouting. They channeled it into determination. When they felt excitement, they didn't rush blindly. They used that energy to create structured plans. That is how emotions and strategy can work together. Emotions giving you fire, and strategy giving you direction. If you think about it, emotions are like winds. They can push you in any direction depending on the day, the moment, or even the people around you. Strategy is like the compass. It makes sure you know where north is, no matter how strong the wind blows. Without a compass, you drift endlessly. With it, you can use the wind, even the storms, to sail exactly where you need to go. That is why strategy creates results, while emotions only create reactions. The truth is, reacting to everything around you only makes you a product of your environment. But moving with strategy makes you the creator of your environment. One way keeps you trapped in a cycle of instant satisfaction followed by long-term regret. The other way builds consistency, respect, and achievements that don't fade away when emotions do. When someone provokes you, the emotional reaction is to fight back. But the strategic move might be to stay silent, to protect your energy, and to win in the bigger picture. When you're tempted to quit because it feels too hard, the emotional choice is to stop. But the strategic choice is to remember why you started, adjust your plan, and keep going until the results appear. When you're faced with an opportunity that excites you, the emotional choice is to jump immediately. But the strategic choice is to evaluate, to negotiate, to ensure that the step you take actually aligns with your long-term vision. You don't need to be cold or emotionless to move strategically. You need to be self-aware. You need to understand yourself so deeply that you can recognize when an emotion is clouding your judgment. You need to have the strength to pause when your instinct screams to act. You need to believe in your own vision so strongly that you don't let temporary feelings sabotage your permanent goals. And once you start practicing this, you will notice that you stop being controlled by circumstances and you start controlling outcomes. That shift is everything. At the end of the day, emotions will always come and go. You will always feel joy, anger, fear, love, disappointment, and hope. That's what makes you human. But the difference between people who live ordinary lives and people who create extraordinary results is not the emotions they feel, it is what they do with them. Reaction is ordinary. Strategy is extraordinary. We live in a world where everyone wants to win instantly. The argument, the opportunity, the recognition. People want to fight for the moment because it feels urgent, it feels personal, it feels like proof of their worth. But the truth is, the moment is just that, a moment. It's fleeting, temporary, here today and gone tomorrow. Winning the moment may feed your ego, but it rarely feeds your future. What really matters is not how you perform in a single scene, but how you carry yourself through the entire story. Life is not a snapshot, it's a journey. And the people who rise, the people who build, the people who leave something behind are not the ones who fought hardest for one moment, but the ones who planned consistently for the long road ahead. When you fight for the moment, you often act on impulse. You want to prove a point, to feel validated, to silence doubt, and maybe you succeed. Maybe you win that debate, you make that purchase, you grab that quick success. But after the glow fades, you're left with the question, did this take me closer to my ultimate vision, or did it just make me feel good right now? Most of the time, chasing the moment is like eating junk food. It satisfies your craving instantly, but it doesn't nourish your body. Planning for the journey, however, is like building a lifestyle. It sustains you, strengthens you, and keeps you moving when the moments get hard. Think of a road trip. If you only care about one stop, you'll rush, you'll take wrong turns, you'll burn all your fuel just to get there. But if your eye is on the journey, you'll pace yourself, you'll save your energy, you'll make smart choices that keep you going until you reach the true destination. That's the difference between living for the moment and living for the journey. One makes you reckless, the other makes you unstoppable. In relationships, fighting for the moment might mean proving you're right in an argument. But if the relationship matters, is winning that single argument worth damaging the bond? If you plan for the journey, You don't sacrifice trust for a temporary victory. You choose patience, understanding, and growth because you know the long-term connection is worth more than the instant win. In careers, fighting for the moment might mean chasing a quick promotion or trying to outshine someone in the room. But planning for the journey means investing in your skills, building your reputation, and thinking about how your choices today will shape your path in 5 or 10 years. The promotion will eventually fade, but the foundation of who you become will carry you forward. The hardest part is that moments are loud. They scream for your attention. They demand urgency. They tempt you with immediate gratification. The journey, however, is quiet. It asks for patience, discipline, and consistency. It doesn't give you fireworks every day, but it gives you progress, and progress builds momentum. That's why so many people lose themselves in moments. They are seduced by the noise. But the few who rise above it, who can silence the noise and keep their eyes on the road, they are the ones who win beyond the moment. You must remind yourself constantly that the battles worth fighting are not the small ones. The war worth winning is the war of growth, of vision, of legacy. If you waste your energy fighting for every single moment, you'll run out of strength before you ever get to where you are meant to go. But if you conserve your energy, if you pick your battles with wisdom, if you plan for the journey, you will not only reach your destination, you will arrive stronger, wiser, and prouder of who you became along the way. Sometimes planning for the journey means walking away from a moment that your pride desperately wants to claim. Sometimes it means delaying gratification because you know that the bigger reward is coming. Sometimes it means being misunderstood in the present because you trust that your truth will stand in the long run. That is not weakness, that is strategy. And strategy always outlives impulse. Think of the greatest athletes, artists, or leaders. Their journeys were never about winning one moment. They faced losses, failures, and humiliations. If they had fought for every single moment, they would have burned out early. Instead, they kept their focus on the larger vision. They trained when nobody was watching, they sacrificed when others were indulging, and they built piece by piece, step by step, day after day. The moments came and went, but their journey built their legacy. Your life is the same. Every decision you make is either serving the moment or serving the journey. When you are about to speak in anger, ask yourself, will this help my journey or only satisfy my moment? When you are about to quit because today feels too heavy, ask yourself, will quitting now ruin the journey I promised myself? When you are tempted by shortcuts, by quick recognition, by easy wins, ask yourself, will this strengthen me for the road ahead or will it weaken me over time? That self-awareness is what separates those who get lost in moments from those who own their journeys. And here's the truth, the journey is long and it's not always glamorous. There will be days of doubt, seasons of struggle, and moments where everything in you screams to stop or to fight for a shortcut. But if you hold the vision, if you keep planning, if you keep moving with intention, the results will be bigger than anything a moment could ever give you. The journey is where your character is built, your resilience is tested, your wisdom is shaped. And only those who commit to the journey truly get to experience the fullness of what life has to offer. In a world that moves so fast, we are trained to believe that speed equals success. We are told that if we don't respond instantly, if we don't act immediately, if we don't keep running without stopping, we will fall behind. And because of that belief, most people rush into decisions, rush into reactions, rush into actions they later wish they had taken differently. But the truth is, the greatest strength often lies not in how fast you move, but in whether you have the clarity to know where you're moving. That clarity only comes when you pause, when you breathe, and when you allow your mind to lead your action instead of your emotions driving it blindly. Pausing doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean hesitation. It means wisdom. It means you understand that not every situation requires your immediate reaction. It means you recognize that silence can be more powerful than rushing to speak, that stillness can be more effective than running in the wrong direction. When you pause, you give yourself the gift of perspective. You create a gap between what you feel and what you choose, and in that gap lies the difference between chaos and control. Breathing is not just physical, it is emotional. When you breathe deeply in a moment of pressure, you anchor yourself. You remind your body that you are in control, not the situation. A breath gives you space to recenter, to calm the storm inside before you face the storm outside. It slows down the rush of adrenaline that pushes you toward rash decisions. It allows your mind to catch up to your heart and for reason to meet emotion. That meeting point is where clarity is born. Clarity is everything. Without it, you act blindly, you stumble, you fight battles that don't matter, and you miss opportunities that could change your life. With clarity, you see the bigger picture. You know which battles to walk away from, which opportunities are worth the risk, which words will heal instead of harm. Clarity doesn't erase difficulty, but it gives you the wisdom to navigate it without destroying yourself in the process. Think about the last time you acted without pausing. Maybe you sent a message you wished you hadn't. Maybe you made a promise you couldn't keep. Maybe you reacted in anger, only to realize later that the situation wasn't even what you thought it was. That's what happens when you act before clarity arrives. Now think of the times you gave yourself even a small pause, just a few seconds to breathe before responding. Chances are your decision was wiser, calmer, and more effective. That is the power of a pause. It doesn't need to be long, but it can change everything. In leadership, this principle is essential. A leader who reacts to every crisis without pause spreads fear and confusion. But a leader who pauses, who breathes, who listens and observes before speaking, creates stability. People trust those who don't crumble under pressure, who don't let urgency cloud their judgment. In relationships, too, the pause is vital. Instead of firing back words in the heat of anger, pausing allows love to speak louder than pride. Instead of rushing to conclusions, breathing allows you to hear with openness, to understand with patience, and to respond with kindness. Even in personal growth, clarity before action saves you years of wasted effort. Many people chase goals that don't even belong to them, running tirelessly towards success defined by someone else. But when you pause and breathe, you hear your own voice again. You reconnect with what matters to you, not what the world shouts at you. Then your actions become intentional, aligned with your vision, and every step forward becomes meaningful instead of random. The pause is not about delaying life. It is about designing it. It is about ensuring that your actions are not just fast but effective, not just immediate but intelligent. Breathing grounds you so that your choices come from strength, not fear. Clarity transforms your actions into strategy, so that every move contributes to a larger picture instead of scattering your energy across meaningless reactions. Think of an archer. The arrow cannot be released without a pause. That moment of stillness, of aim, of focus, is what makes the shot powerful. If the archer rushed and released without clarity, the arrow would miss its target every time. Your life is no different. Your pause is your aim, your breath is your focus, your clarity is your target. Without them, you may keep moving, but you will rarely hit what you are aiming for. It takes courage to pause in a world that glorifies constant motion. It takes discipline to breathe when everyone else is panicking. It takes wisdom to wait for clarity instead of rushing into action. But those who master this are the ones who rise above the noise, who create results that last, who move with confidence even in uncertainty. Pausing, breathing, and letting clarity lead is not slowing down. It is leveling up. Strength is visible, it's obvious, it's the thing everyone notices first. Strength is the power in your voice when you refuse to back down, the resilience in your body when you keep standing after falling, the force you use to protect yourself in the face of attack. And strength can indeed win battles. It can push you through a difficult day, it can silence doubt in the moment, it can overpower an obstacle that stands in your way. But wars are never won by strength alone. Wars are won by the mind, by patience, by vision, and by strategy. Because a single battle is just one piece of the story. It's temporary, it's loud, it ends quickly. But a war is a journey, a test of endurance, a demand for planning, and a measure of how far your vision can carry you beyond the moment of struggle. History is filled with examples of people who were strong enough to win in the short term, but lost in the long term because they lacked strategy. Strength is about now, strategy is about forever. Strength is about proving you can push. Strategy is about ensuring you know where to push, when to push, and how much to push. Strength is reaction, but strategy is design. You can use all the force in the world, but if you are not moving with a plan, that force will scatter and eventually exhaust you. Strategy channels strength, focuses it, and transforms it into something that lasts. Think about it in your own life. How many times have you fought hard for something in the moment, argued until your throat was tired, worked until your body collapsed, pushed until you could no longer breathe, only to realize later that it didn't even matter? That's what happens when strength is your only weapon. Now think about the times when you stepped back, looked at the bigger picture, saved your energy for the right moment, and chose your moves carefully. Those were the times you not only won but kept winning. That's what strategy does. It ensures that victory is not temporary but sustainable. The truth is, strength without strategy often leads to wasted energy. You can fight every small battle and still lose the war because you didn't protect your energy, you didn't calculate your risks, you didn't think beyond the moment. Strategy requires patience, and patience is often harder than strength. Strength makes you feel powerful right away, but strategy requires you to sacrifice immediate satisfaction for long-term success. Strength shouts, strategy whispers. Strength demands recognition now, strategy earns respect forever. In careers, many people rely only on strength. They work harder, they stay later, they push themselves past their limits. And while that might win them temporary rewards, it often burns them out before they ever reach their real potential. Those who rise the highest are the ones who combine their strength with strategy. They don't just work hard, they work smart. They don't just chase every opportunity, they choose the ones aligned with their larger vision. They don't just fight for every promotion, they build relationships, reputations, and skills that outlast titles. Strength may win the office battle, but strategy builds the career. In relationships, too, strength can win arguments. You can shout louder, demand more, dominate with your will, but strategy is what keeps the relationship alive. Strategy is compromise, patience, and the ability to think about the bond instead of just the argument. Strength can silence someone in the moment, but strategy ensures the connection survives the storms. Strength can hold on, but strategy knows when to let go. Even within yourself, this principle is true. You may have the strength to face pain, to keep going through tough times, to endure hardships. But strategy is what makes sure you are not just surviving, but moving forward with purpose. Strength can carry you through one hard day. Strategy can carry you through a lifetime of challenges. Strength makes you unbreakable in a single fight. Strategy makes you unstoppable in the entire journey. Wars are not won in one day. They are not decided by one action. They are a series of choices, battles, losses, wins, recoveries, and comebacks. If you rely only on strength, every loss will break you because strength cannot see beyond the present. But strategy absorbs losses as lessons, turning them into fuel for the next move. Strength might help you stand taller, but strategy teaches you how to move smarter. Strength helps you strike, but strategy makes sure you strike at the right time, at the right place, in the right way. The world respects strength, but it follows strategy. That is why some of the most successful people are not always the strongest, but they are almost always the most strategic. They know when to fight and when to walk away. They know when to be silent and when to speak. They know that the war is bigger than today's emotions, and so they don't waste themselves on meaningless victories. They save their energy for the battles that matter, the ones that move them closer to their vision. Strength can make you feared, but strategy makes you remembered. Strength might give you temporary applause, but strategy builds legacies. A person of strength can win attention, but a person of strategy wins respect. And respect lasts longer than applause ever could. Strength may give you force, but strategy gives you influence. Force pushes people, but influence moves them. That's why strategy will always be greater than strength. You need strength. It gives you resilience, it gives you courage, it gives you the will to fight when life tests you. But strength without strategy is like fire without direction. It burns everything, including you. Strategy is what shapes the fire, turns it into light, and makes sure it builds instead of destroys. Strength may help you break barriers, but strategy shows you which barriers are worth breaking. Strength will carry you into the fight, but strategy will carry you out victorious. Every person wants to leave something behind, something bigger than themselves, something that proves they were here, that their life mattered, that their existence changed even a small part of the world. That is what a legacy is. But here's the truth. Legacies are never built on random moments, on quick choices, or on impulsive reactions. They are built on the quiet, consistent, often unseen discipline of showing up again and again, even when no one is watching, even when it feels thankless, even when the temptation of shortcuts whispers in your ear. Discipline is not glamorous, but it is the foundation of every story that lasts. Impulse feels exciting. It feels alive. It gives you the rush of acting on a feeling, the thrill of chasing something without thinking, the pleasure of instant satisfaction. But impulse fades. What feels right in the moment often doesn't stand the test of time. What excites you today might embarrass you tomorrow. What gives you a high this week might leave you empty the next. That is why people who live by impulse often leave nothing lasting behind. They live in cycles of highs and lows, but they never build anything solid enough to carry forward. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It is not about the moment, it is about the mission. It is not about what feels good now, it is about what will matter later. Discipline means choosing consistency over convenience. It means showing up for your goals when excitement has disappeared. It means saying no to distractions when everyone else is saying yes. It means waking up when your body wants to stay in bed, practicing when your mind wants to give up, and staying true to your vision when the world offers easier paths. Discipline is not a single action, it is 1,000 small choices that compound over time into greatness. Think about the legends you admire, the ones whose names are remembered long after their time. They were not impulsive people who chased whatever came their way. They were disciplined people who chose their path and stayed on it when others wandered. They built habits, they built systems, they built routines that carried them forward even when motivation failed them. They understood that impulse is a spark, but discipline is the fire that keeps burning. Impulse might start the journey, but only discipline completes it. In careers, discipline is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Anyone can get lucky once, anyone can impress people once, anyone can work hard for a week, but only disciplined people sustain excellence year after year. They don't rely on mood, they rely on commitment. They don't wait for inspiration, they create habits that keep them moving. That is why their work stands the test of time while others fade away. In relationships, too, discipline matters more than impulse. Falling in love can be impulsive. It's exciting, it's emotional, it feels unstoppable. But staying in love, building a partnership, raising a family, protecting a bond, that requires discipline. The discipline to communicate when it's easier to shut down. The discipline to forgive when your ego wants to hold on. The discipline to keep choosing someone every day, even when the emotions are not as overwhelming as they once were. Impulse brings you together, but discipline keeps you together. Even in personal growth, impulse is not enough. You might get inspired by a quote, by a video, by a moment of motivation, and you feel like you can change your life overnight. But real change does not happen overnight. It happens through discipline. It happens through doing the boring work, the repetitive work, the work that no one claps for, but that transforms you slowly, quietly, and permanently. Impulse pushes you for a day. Discipline shapes you for a lifetime. The challenge is that discipline is often invisible. Nobody celebrates you for waking up early every morning. Nobody applauds you for choosing to practice instead of party. Nobody notices the hundreds of times you resisted temptation or sacrificed comfort. The results show much later, when suddenly you are stronger, wiser, more skilled, more successful, and people will call it talent, luck, or destiny, but you will know it was discipline. It was the small choices stacked on top of each other until they became unshakable results. Impulse might make you popular for a season, but discipline makes you timeless. Impulse can give you a moment of recognition, but discipline builds a reputation. Impulse is about now, discipline is about forever. Legacies are not written in sudden bursts of brilliance. They are carved slowly, deliberately, patiently, with the steady hand of discipline guiding every move. It is tempting to believe that greatness comes from big, dramatic acts. But more often, greatness comes from the quiet discipline of small acts, repeated over and over again. The athlete who practices every day when no one is watching. The artist who keeps refining their work when nobody cares. The leader who keeps learning long after others stop. These are the people who build legacies because they understand that discipline outlives impulse every single time. Impulse is like fireworks, bright, loud, dazzling, but gone in seconds. Discipline is like the sun, steady, reliable, powerful, giving life day after day without fail. Fireworks are exciting, but the sun sustains the world. That is the difference between living by impulse and building through discipline. If you want to leave something behind, if you want your name to be remembered, if you want your work to outlast you, then you cannot rely on impulse. You cannot live only for the rush of now. You must commit to the long road of discipline. You must be willing to do what others will not. You must embrace the unglamorous consistency that turns dreams into reality. That is how legacies are built, not through bursts of impulse, but through the steady strength of discipline that refuses to break, that refuses to quit, that refuses to stop showing up day after day after day.